Welcome, fellow last places, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about comic books, TV shows, and movies. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about She-Hulk episode 2. And as you can see, Chris is here. I know for the people who listened to the other stuff, our last podcast, which was, I did make a reference of Chris not being here, but I still have you in the intro, Chris. So, feel honored. Okay, feel honored. I'm thinking about you, man.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, with just like always, guys, if you guys like the content, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Also, let us know what you guys think about the episode 2. We would love to hear what you guys have to think. And always spoilers ahead. So if you guys don't like spoilers, stop listening and then come back after you've watched it so we don't spoil anything for you. But let's get right into it. Episode 2 of She-Hulk. Chris, what'd you think? How are you liking the pace of this? Because I'm actually really liking this, right? I'm really liking quick. The first 2 episodes were quick 30 minutes. I thought the episode 1 could have been a little bit longer, but I felt like it really worked for this episode because we got everything we needed out of the way really quickly.
So for me, I'm fine with the pace. Hold on, I'm very hot in the mic. I'm sorry if I blew out your ears there. It's just one of those things, man, where if you're gonna give me 30-minute episodes, just give me the whole season so I can binge it, please. It's so hard to wait a week for 30 minutes, But the pacing of the episode, like you said, it is good. I'm having a lot of fun with the show. What was it that Bree told me something about? Because I want to get this out of the way. The complaining, she saw some comments of people that are in the CGI world or whatever, and they're like talking about this show, and they're like, "This is a step backwards. Like, what are we doing?" I'm like, "It's a TV show. Relax. They're not gonna go 100% full on out for a TV show, and it's fine."
And I'm glad you brought that up because the common thing that people misconceive is that they're going to put this maximum amount of money. It doesn't matter how much money the company makes. They're not putting a bunch of money into a season 1 of a show. That's just not what they do. Mm-hmm. If you guys look back and go watch the first episodes of Game of Thrones, and which is a high budgeted show, which their first seasons, they hid the dragons a lot. They didn't show, they didn't even have them because, there were still eggs. But I'm saying even when the dragons first appeared, the CGI wasn't there for them until they became more of a focal point. And I honestly don't think the CGI in the show is that bad.
It's not bad at all, no.
I think it's fine for TV, which is what I'm looking at it for. I can understand why people feel like this is a step back for Marvel. But again, they're not going to have movie budget for these TV shows, and their budget is higher than normal TV shows. So realistically, you can complain about the CGI, but you're not going to get what Marvel is doing anywhere else because no one else is doing putting that kind of TV show without really breaking the bank.
Yeah.
And when I mean breaking the bank, Lord of the Rings is breaking the bank, to make a high quality product, because they want that to be a main staple for them. She-Hulk, as much as I've been enjoying it, it's not going to be the main staple. They're telling you to get to this story, so they're not going to put 100% of their CGI. I can guarantee you this: she's going to look way better when you see her in the movies. I can guarantee it. And that's just how it's going to be. And I mean, they've made some improvements, and this is not an excuse for them. I'm just saying, as far as understanding that TV is just there, it's always going to be just a little bit less.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. But overall, the episode was good. I had some funny moments that, I paused a lot to explain to Brie because me and her. So the Hulk movie is the only Marvel movie I have not seen. Literally, that is the only one. I know who's in it. I know the characters. I know, I know a majority of it. I just can't bring myself to go back and be like, oh yeah, I should sit down and watch. I just don't want to. It's just one of those things. I like
that movie. A lot of people say they don't like that movie, but I feel like that movie had one of the best Hulk fights, one of the best Hulk scenes in it. And it's funny that people are now upset because when that movie came out, so many people were like, "Oh, like I don't really like this movie," like, and they were kind of like, saying some things about it. And now everyone wants that Hulk back. Like the Hulk himself, like being angry and stuff like that. Now they want that instead of the things that they were complaining about earlier when that thing comes out. So it's always funny to me when people in the moment see something and are trying to experience it, and then they completely, like, years later, just retcon what they were saying and just like, oh no, like now I want this. Like first you were happy about Small Hulk, oh they're referencing the comics, now it's I want Old Hulk. It's like, what do you want? And
can't make them, can't make everybody happy. You just got to continue with your story. But I had to stop and explain to Bree what was going on because one, she didn't remember who Abomination was, and she's like, "Are you looking up who Abomination is?" And I was like, "You don't remember who he is?" She's like, "No." I was like, "From Shang-Chi?" Like Shang-Chi, sorry. And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Wong fought him. You don't remember?" And then she's like, "What?" I had to show her a picture. She's like, "Oh yeah." So whenever I was watching that scene, I was looking and in the security cell, and I was like, that means Wong broke him in and out of jail. And then little did we know, what I picked up from it is that this is taking place at the same time as Shang-Chi, because at the end of the episode, right, they're like, oh, hey, there's a video that came up that he broke out and everything like that. And then Brie looked at me, she's like, so it's Wong's fault. I was like, don't put my Wong.
But honestly, if even as a person who doesn't watch, but I know Wong is going to be in the show. And what a great way to transition that, though, right? Because like it wouldn't now, and that's the thing. Like I feel like the show's not going to get, like, these first 2 episodes to me have been really solid, minus the one thing that I had with issue 1, which is not that big of a deal. But like when you can do proper connections to your, to your older content, I thought that was dope. Like they really took in the Incredible Hulk movie, right? They're like, listen, it might look like a different person. They even, took a stab at it when Bruce was like,
"Oh, I'm a completely different person."
Like literally, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, I like that they're doing that because for this show it works, right? Because she is a fourth wall breaking character. So the show itself being hyper aware of itself is really cool to me. You know what I mean? So so the fact that they're diving into this and then really trying to, like, here's, what's his name? Abomination, Emil Blonsky, and like having him there and then having Wong, breaking him out is going to be great because we're going to go back and be like, oh, well, this makes sense now why Wong is showing up, because Jen probably going to be like, hey, what's the reason for this? Because she's a lawyer. Like, why did you do this? Like, I have to be able to present this in court on why you broke him out. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, what was the situation? And I think that's going to make for some really good moments because Wong is a really great, funny character, right? So like their interaction is going to be hilarious. So I can't wait to see that. And I thought the way they did it was really tasteful.
Wong, to me, the reason why he's my favorite is the way he carries himself, and I think that's how he is as an actual person. Is about inner peace. He's like all about peace and having fun. So he's just like, okay, everything's respectful and everything like that. I'm respectful, and whenever it's time to have fun, there are times to have fun, and I do have those moments. Whenever they do the karaoke at the end of Shang-Chi and they're singing and stuff like that. And he's just having a good time. And then there's parts that you need to focus, and then you need to respect the area that you're in. And I love that about him. So I can't wait to get more of that story of why he got Abomination. Like, because whenever she walks in, and he's like, I'm a changed man. He's like, I found peace and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, that's he's probably learning from Wong. Wong's probably trying to get him to control that anger and everything. But like I said, it was just one of those funny moments that I was like, oh, Wong broke him out and then broke in to put him in. And then the fact that they were like, no, this just happened. And it's just like, wait, what? So I thought that was just, it was just one of those funny moments. Another good moment was with the family, meeting her family and everything like that. them realizing like how supportive they are too. The dad is a good hero in this case, because he's like, hey, you're not the first Hulk and that we had to deal with in the family. And so we're getting accustomed to it. You didn't destroy a city. You didn't do this, you know? And one of my favorite lines from the episode is when he tells her, hey, your worst fear happened, but you're still here. So that means you can keep going. And that stuck with me. And I was like, that's so good. I love that line so much. He was just a very likable person. And the end credit scene with him also like taking advantage of her being, he's like, hey, I got to get this move. We got to lift this. Can you put this here? Was fantastic.
Yeah. I agree. I love this episode, and I immediately talked about how much I like the pacing, because this episode, like I said, it really brought in all the information you needed. It also introduced us to enough characters to where like we're setting things up, but also we didn't need like a deep dive. Like it's nice to see that now we know how she's still in touch with her family, right? Mm-hmm. Even though it was a quick 5-minute scene, but like we now know that like about her. Like we know different things, and they show different elements, like her and her friendship, you know, with her paralegal. Like they just kept showing different things in this episode that really set up her character and did it in well fashion. No scenes to me felt drawn out. Like every scene to me felt like it meant something. Like, oh, this meant something. This meant something. This meant something, which I will go into because of our Easter eggs. But like every scene that we went into, if you know and like actually like pay attention. And one of the good things that I like about this being 30 minutes is that it's easier to watch it again the second time, because I can just, you know, put it back on. So one of the interesting things that is on this episode, which is a thing I've been complaining about, and they haven't done it until this episode, is the whole thing that happened in the Eternals, where they just left the Celestial in the middle of the ocean, and no Marvel movie had described what it was or even talked about it. And I said from the beginning, it's a real simple thing you have to do. You could either put it on a television and have it be like a news anchored moment, or just put it somewhere where someone can catch it. And if you guys go and look when Jen is looking for jobs, when she has her computer up, it says related articles. Why is there a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean? And that little scene made me happy because I was like, finally, this world like thing that is, it's not like it's a small thing. It's a noticeable thing, and no one moved it and no one has referenced it. So finally we got some reference to it. So that little thing makes me happy. But if you look on the same exact page, you'll also see man fights with metal claws in a bar brawl. Now, come on. We know who that is. If you guys have watched even the Wolverine video game trailer, when Magneto and Professor X tried to get him in first class, where was he at? A bar. Okay. The bar is like an essential thing to Wolverine's character. So I don't want to hear this, you know, it could be something. No, we know that's Wolverine.
We know it is.
And they're slowly implementing mutants. And I think this is the best way to do it. You don't have to rush it. We don't need an X-Men movie immediately. Just start getting the world used to it. We did it a little bit with Miss Marvel by pretty much announcing that she's a mutant. And now in this, you kind of say, hey, look, you know, we already know Hulk and Wolverine had a history like in the comics, which was a pretty big deal because, I mean, Wolverine actually shows up in a Hulk comic. Like that was his first appearance. So like all that being, you know, just to have that little bit of information, I think it's cool. And I also think it's dope that you have to look for it. Like it's not something that's right in there, but like when people see Wolverine and then they're going to be like, yeah, like, if we see a bar fight scene, that just sets up so much because now we like can know a time frame without you even going into major detail. Like, you know what I mean? Without actually knowing what the time frame is. And I thought that was really, really well tastefully done. They did that really well and finally acknowledged that Eternals thing. And it also kind of tells us where exactly in the timeline Eternals is, right? Because now we kind of know that the end of Eternals happened clearly while while She-Hulk was, getting her powers. And like you said, at the end of the episode with the post-credit scene, we know that he just got broken out. So we know Shang-Chi at that time where all of that took place. So it's all taking place at the same time. And the best thing about that is which is why they kind of stressed out locations and everything's not happening in the same city. It's way more believable now, right? Because imagine if this all happened in the same city, how difficult it would have been to be like, this thing happened here or this thing happened here. Like, we kind of have an idea of all the things can happen at the same time because you kind of established this, like you established that, right? Yeah. So I think that was really, really well done.
I wanted to say for the Wolverine thing, they can't use him yet. I don't think.
No,
I think
they can.
Are you sure? I thought there was a time that they were like, he's officially cleared to be in a movie at this point.
He's cleared now. They just haven't casted him.
Gotcha.
They haven't casted any of the X-Men characters.
And the Eternals thing is it still amazes me. It's a movie that a lot of people missed that they don't feel like they needed to see. Because even to this day, me working at Disney and at the new Guardians ride, right? Spoiler if you don't want to know about the video in there. I'll give you a few seconds. All right. But you're running away from Celestial. And it's... And every time I've been in there and I'm waiting and I watch this video, people have no idea what that thing is. They're like, what is that? Why? They think they missed something in Guardians of the Galaxy. They think that it's going to be in another movie. Like people are wondering.
I think it is going. Well, I do think it's going to be show up again. It has to.
Yeah, but they think like that's an upcoming Guardians movie or something.
Oh,
that's
probably not. But you never know. They might do it.
We'll see.
So,
but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say about her phone call with Bruce was when we got another thing of like I'm a little busy, and it zooms out and he's in the ship from the first episode. So that's just telling us, okay, so we're on the way, or he's on the way to the next film or show. But also, they're not going to tell, like, at first, I'm like, oh, I'm ready to know what that spaceship was about. And that just confirmed to me that, like, hey, we're not going to know anything for a little bit.
It's a Sicarian ship, which is the setup to Planet Hulk. Now, the reason why it's going to throw people off because of the time frame of all of this happening is probably not going to make sense, because unless they tell us something about Ragnarok happening, which then I feel like they're going to mess up the timeline, but they
already did.
Basically, no, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So Ragnarok. So when Hulk gets captured and fights Thor, it's in Planet Hulk. It's actually during. He actually fights Beta Ray Bill in that fight in the comic books. Yeah. So that whole situation, like he then once he breaks out of that. That's when the whole, like, he stays there because that's his planet. Like, it is Planet Hulk. Like, you know what I mean? He wasn't caught up by the Collector or anything like that. They break out, you know what I mean? After he breaks out of being the champion and everyone getting everyone's respect with Meek and all that, they then take over the planet. So now they're kind of like changing what Planet Hulk is, at least part of that story now, because they already used a bit of it inside of what you call it. So I'm interested to see what they do with Planet Hulk, but that's the only thing, because that's literally he's the whole the planet is actually Scar, which is what he then calls his son. So I don't know how they're going to put that up, but this does mean if something happens, because this might give, reason to put the Illuminati back in and then just make some tweaks and stuff like that, because the whole reason why all this happened was because of the Illuminati, because they sent Hulk away. Yeah. So the scene that they took essentially in the end of Age of Ultron, where Hulk just flies out, was actually just the Illuminati who then sent Hulk away.
Yeah, and they tell him like, hey, you're a danger.
So now now they have all this property. It's going to be interesting because I feel like you can still do that. You can still now have the Illuminati say like it's a threat for Hulk to have a planet or something like that. blow it up or something like that, and then force him to come back so you can do World War Hulk. So I'm interested to see how they go about that, because they've used bits and pieces from Planet Hulk already. But once I saw a Sicarian ship, I was like, this is Planet Hulk. I just don't know how we're going to do Planet Hulk. But I'm here for it. I think it's dope. That whole setup was pretty cool. And then, like you said, the whole Shang-Chi being referenced at the end, just, we saw that fight, and it's great when and this is one of those good things when you watch everything, and I feel like this is when you should be rewarded, right? I always say, like, you have to reward your fans who watch everything, like at least one time, even if it's something small. For us, we get rewarded if we watch Shang-Chi, because we saw that fight. We saw why that fight was taking place, and we saw what happens after that fight. We also know the relationship already, like you were saying, where, Wong has been clearly talking to him. Like, you know what I mean?
You get that sense of friendship. It's such a, if you haven't seen Shang-Chi 1, fantastic movie. It's up there for me. But it's such a small moment in that film. And you see how big, like, just that few seconds, and it's a funny moment. Like, you see, to me, it was to see, oh my gosh, there's a villain that we saw in the past, but also you get a little snippet of a funny moment of Wong, right? And I thought that's how they were going to introduce him. Like, cool. But the fact that it comes back to this point, and you see how big of a cause that moment was, is going to be...
Absolutely. And that's the one thing that it pays such, and that's one of the things that the Netflix shows were missing, right?
Yeah.
That direct connection to, like, movies being acknowledged by the TV show, and, the TV shows being acknowledged by the movies. Because I feel like you have to do it both ways. And now that it's all under one branch, it's going to happen both ways now. But this was like a direct, hey, this is what happened. And then it's like, oh, by the way, because you've took this is how it affected this character who is representing him. And like that, like you said, small scene becomes such a big moment now, because we know, as we're following Jen Walters, how this is going to affect her case, the new job she just got, you know what I mean? And like, she's gonna think. So that whole thing, and I think Tatiana, who's playing Jen Walters, she's just fantastic. Like that whole scene when her boss tells her, like, that she wants to talk to regular Jen because, like, She-Hulk is just big, intimidating. And then she's like, and then she goes like out of it, and then she instantly turns drunk. And she's like, oh, different metabolisms. Yeah. Like, little things like that make that show cool to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those little things, and just the way that they're finding a way to, interweave all that stuff. I think, like I said, I really have loved what they've done with these first 2 episodes. I really hope if this can continue for 9 straight episodes, I'll be a happy camper. And it literally would go up for one of my favorites, like, for the show wise. If we get what we got for these first 2 episodes throughout the season, then it definitely be one of my favorite shows.
Also, real quick, I wanted to point out smaller things. Her other coworker that's at the bar,
oh my God,
is becoming a little too real for me. Because I'm like, this guy's a dick. Like, when he's like, oh, nice way to save your superpowers to get publicity. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you would say that. And then whenever I was just like, man, this guy's a real jerk. And then the last line he says is, there's a hot girl, I'm going to go talk to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus. What a douchebag. Oh, man. And also, I wanted to give props to the marketing team of this show, because on TikTok, I've been seeing a lot of videos of what's her name? Jamila Jamil, dressed up as her character, right? Yeah. And they have they put posters up of She-Hulk, like, of advertising She-Hulk, and she's going around putting her poster over it and spray painting and vandalizing all the She-Hulk posters. And people have been catching her, and they're like, what is going on? And I'm like, this is fantastic, because only the people that watch the show know, that are like, oh, wait. So,
they've did, like I said, I think this show is not going to get enough credit because of how people felt about the first episode, because they felt like they were, being called out. But you know who you are at the end of the day. Like I said, I've been enjoying this show a lot. First 2 episodes really have me really excited for what's going to go on. And if we can continue with this humor, this this pacing and all that, like I said, I think it would be one of my favorite shows. So I'm loving the cameos. I'm loving the little Easter eggs. I love the way they do the fourth wall. The relationship with her and Bruce has been great. Like just being able to call him and, you know, console, but now obviously he won't be able to because, you know, he's off to do his own thing. And fun fact, one of the reasons why I believe they are setting this up, by the way, is because if everything remains the same, MCU technically has the rights to make a Marvel solo Hulk movie in 2023 after July. So I think those scenes are already being shot because Marvel and everyone at Disney already assumes that they're going to get those solo rights back to thing, because there's no way Universal makes a movie they would have to release a movie now in order for it to keep the rights to it.
And they're not going to do that.
And they're not going to do that.
It'd be bad for them because everybody like, what are you doing?
Why are you doing this? So once that happens, and everyone's going to get what they want. You're going to get Angry Hulk because World War Hulk, if you haven't read that, it's literally just 5 issues of Hulk beating everybody up. Yeah. And, you know, you'll get a good Planet Hulk story. So I think it's that's
and
what
Mark
they're
Ruffalo gets
for.
his own movie. I think everybody wants to see him have his own movie too.
And I think that's what they're working for. I mean, not even think. I know that's what they're working for. Yeah. So this is why they showed us this in there, how Hulk gets to like Planet Hulk, and now we can set that whole world up because July 2023, you can give Hulk his own story, like own movie. Obviously, it won't be released around that time because, you know, they don't want to be like, well, you started making this movie before you were thinking, like, you know, before we got so. But I do anticipate it coming out the following year because I feel like it's already being recorded and the plot and story and all that is already up there. And they're just like, once we get these rights, like, we don't have to show anyone anything until we get the rights. And then once we do, we'll be ready.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think that's going to be it for us. We're going to wrap it up the same way we always do. What was your favorite moment of the episode, Chris?
I got 2. All right.
Nice.
First one is, I mean, this one's a very minor one. And it's the fact that, you know, he's like, I wrote a haiku for all my victims and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, it needs to come from the heart. And he's like, it is coming from the heart, like making fun of haikus. Yeah. And then the fact that, you know, Hulk is like, yeah, he wrote me a letter and it came with a very heartfelt. And I was like, and she's like, huh, okay. But my absolute favorite moment, and probably, like I said, it's probably my line of the year because it just sticks with me personally, is that your worst fear has come true, but you're still here, and that means you can keep going. And that was my favorite line. So
yeah. This episode was definitely great. I have a lot of favorite moments, but I think my favorite moment is the end, just because, like, I feel like it was a nice cherry on top. Like, with all the great stuff we got in that episode, and like I enjoyed, and then just the cherry on top, because, you know, she's not like overdoing the fourth wall talking either. Even in a short show, which they could make her do, she's not overdoing it. And like they did it perfectly at the end of the episode when it's just like she sees the news report. And Abomination has been cited at underground street fights. And then she goes, well, that sucks. Like, and then it cuts. Like, it's just a great way of just like, you know, she finally got she went through the turmoil in the episode, loses her job. She's just going on this up and down roller coaster. She gets her approval from Bruce about representing him. Like, and she's like, all right, everything is kind of going in my way. And then the end of the episode, and he breaks out. And
her boss, like, dude, what a jerk. The fact that he's like, I'm glad you're taking the job. By the way, turn on the news.
Yeah.
And she's like, of course. Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
And then he hangs up the phone. Like, here you go. Yeah. It's on your plate.
Yep.
You already said yes. No takebacks.
So, yep. And then, it was just great. Like, great way to end it. And she just like turns to the camera and lets us know. Because we're like, yeah, well, that's exactly what we said. Because that's what I said. I said, man, that sucked. Also, it was just like,
I mean, for me, it was a shock. It was a shock moment for me. Like I said, I did not think that this was taking the same place as Shang-Chi. I thought, like, you know, I have really that knowledge already. So I'm like, oh, this happened. And then it shows up in the show and I'm like, wait, no, this is happening right now. And it's like, oh, okay. So I thought that was
it was great. It was great. But guys, thank you for joining us for this one. If you made it to the end of the video, please like, subscribe, Tell us what you guys thought about the episode. We would love to hear it from you guys. So please let us know. We're gonna drop some more. I'll probably have a debrief for you guys also at for House of the Dragons 2. If you guys want to go check that out, we got the episode 1 review for that one too. So until next time, Fire Team out.